Okay, so today here we have Sabayon 5.4. Now this is the KDE version. There is also a GNOME version available, I believe, and probably a few other desktop environments as well. And the performance is not too bad at all. I'm running it inside a virtual machine, 1.5 gig of RAM, and 128 megs for the graphics card, and quite honestly it's been alright. So first of all, as always, let's start out with the look and feel. Now the look and feel for Sabayon, the KDE version, is surprisingly very GTK. As you can see, the internal Oxygen theme here is mostly based on a GTK ClearLooks theme. I believe it's actually using the KDE 3.5 theme for inside the Oxygen panel. Outside you can see it's the same dark Oxygen theme that comes on a lot of KDE distributions. So here we have all the wallpapers, which are all the stock standard KDE 4.5 wallpapers. Very good to see, and of course in desktop settings you can choose the activities, the mouse actions, locations that you want to display in your folder settings, display, and of course your filter settings. And then of course under system settings you can change the application appearance. So this is what we're going to look into today. And you can see here it has the style, the widget style is the CDE, so you can change it to either Qt Curve, Plastic, Phase, Clean Looks, Emotive, or Windows. And Windows looks very Windows indeed. So Plastic is what it appears to be. And it's interesting they don't actually have the stock standard Oxygen theme for normal KDE, so that's a bit interesting. They also have the Qt Curve, which you can use GTK themes inside KDE, so that's quite helpful that they've got that there. But for continuity's sake, we'll leave it at the default. Under colors, of course, you can change the different colors of what you would like. Now, all of these colors are actually pretty awesome, and I've found that Obsidian Coast is one of my favorites, so we'll apply that. And you can see it's changed it to the colors that I've decided. So we'll go back to the default just for continuity's sake again. And of course you can manage your icons, fonts, and emoticons here as well. Now Sabayon is a rolling release based on Gen 2 Linux. Now the good thing about Gen 2 is it's very modular, it's very adaptable, and it's very powerful. It's not for the beginner user by any stretch of the imagination, but what the Sabayon team have done is created a Gen 2 distribution that is a rolling release. It's got to be easy to use out of the box, and they've also got a principle which is keep it stupid simple, and that is basically that you want to make tasks as simple as possible, but not in a way that babies the user. So I believe they've stuck to that fairly well here, and the overall look and theme of Sabayon is a very refined, a very quiet theme that's very dark, it's very serious, and quite honestly I enjoy it. It's a nice theme. It would have been nice to see some slightly better KDE Oxygen theming with the actual internal inside the applications, but again, for the sake of keeping it simple, it's quite quick. It doesn't take up as much resources as the KDE as the stock standard Oxygen theme does. And so that's really all I've got to say about the look and feel. Let's get on to what's more important. Under development, they have Qt Assistant and Entropy Development Repository Manager. Now the great thing about Gen 2 is it's mostly based on compiling your own programs. They do, however, want to provide end users with a package-based system like most other distros as well. So if you would like to be able to compile your own software, you can, and it's very easy to do inside Gen 2. But if you want just a pre-packaged software, you can do that as well. So under development, they have the Qt Assistant and the Entropy Development Repository Manager. So this is obviously where the development software goes. Under games, there's a lot of games here. We've got K-Sudoku, K-Rubric, and a World of Goo demo. Now, it would appear that World of Goo is quite a beefy game, and that's why the DVD download is around about 2 gigs. And we've obviously got some developer information, and you can hear the startup music starts. And here we are inside World of Goo. Now the frame rates aren't too awesome, so we're going to quit for the time being. And here we are back at the desktop. Now the other thing that I'd like to add is that that Sabayon KDE does come with the VirtualBox drivers installed, which is a big help. So you'll notice that the screen automatically adjusts its resolution, which is nice to see. Now also the installer, if you double click on the install to your hard drive, the installer is based on the Fedora installer, which I believe is the Anaconda installer. And back to games, we have board games. We've got quite a number of board games here. Card games, tactics and strategy. Again, they've put a lot of games into this distro. They also have a dedicated gaming edition, which is also pretty cool. It's a 4 gig download, but it gives you nearly every game you could possibly want under Linux. And under graphics, we've just got the basic Ocular K-Snapshot DNG Converter Acquire Images in OpenOffice Draw. Under Internet, standard KDE stuff with the Mozilla Firefox, of course. And there's that writer web page creation that we saw in Pardus 2011, except it is still openoffice.org, it's not LibreOffice at this point. Clementine Music Player, interesting choice considering this is KDE. Clementine Music Player is basically Amarok 1.4 rebranded and tweaked slightly. Basically, a lot of users of Amarok 1.4 were quite disappointed with the Amarok 2.x releases, and so they decided to fork Amarok and create Clementine, which is based on the 1.4 version. So it's a very functional music player. It's a lot more like Banshee, I suppose, in its layout, and I suppose this was in an effort to create a more user-friendly and less resource-heavy music player. So Pardus Corporate Edition, which I'll be reviewing at some stage, also puts Clementine ahead of Amarok as well. That's not to say that you can't install any of those extra applications through the repositories, because Gentoo has a huge repository. For multimedia, we've got K3B, KMix, KSCD, Pulse Audio installed by default. Now, I couldn't get Pulse Audio working for some reason when I installed this on my native hardware. It somehow didn't pick up my audio card, and the audio was extremely dim. I've googled around, and apparently this problem is fairly common, so I hope they can sort this out at some stage. VLC Media Player and XBMC Media Player. It's great that they've included XBMC Media Center. It's quite an advanced media center that's capable of playing all those things like pictures, music, videos, all in a very stylish interface that's great. If you hook it up to a big TV, it would be wonderful. Now, of course, everybody knows you can get this application for Windows as well, but it's just nice to see it bundled by default. Again, the frame rates are a bit choppy here in this application, but that's excusable really. Also, as an option on the boot up menu, you can choose to just install XBMC Media Center or just boot into XBMC Media Center, so it is almost an operating system in itself. Under Office, we have standard OpenOffice and of course the Contact Personal Information Manager, K-Organizer and Ocular again. Settings, we have a firewall builder, which is very helpful. Basically, this is a wizard to help you set up your firewall, and it is quite advanced, but for all demonstrative purposes, I think it's very helpful. It's got a getting started tutorial and a summary of features. Very helpful, and it has startup tips so you can configure your firewall down to the fine level detail. Very helpful for those who manage their own networks with an iron thumb. And then we also have Java Control Panel, menu updating tools, Sulfur, which is their package manager, and system settings. So let's have a quick look in Sulfur. Now, Sulfur is the package manager for the Sabayon release. It is, of course, based on Gentoo. And you can see here that it wants to download the repository information. Now, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to say skip, and you get another tip on startup, which is helpful, but sometimes annoying. And you can see here that the Sulfur Package Manager, again, GTK based theme we've got here, and basically this is where you install your applications and install your updates from. Having said that, they do have an update manager down on the bottom here that will help you update your system as well. Very helpful. Now, I have had a few issues with the Sulfur Update Manager. Now, its backend is Entropy Downloader, and I have had a few issues with stability, but I imagine that'll run fine on native hardware. I think it's got to do with a virtual machine related issue. Under System, we've got the disk utility Dolphin, Firewall Builder again, KDisk Free, which is a view disk usage analyzer, K-Info Center, K-Network Manager, the terminal, the screen resize and rotate, which is quite helpful that they've got that there. K-User, which is User Manager, the Wallet Manager, the Removable Media Utility, the Updates Notifier, which is what you see sitting down in the tray here, and Manage Printing, Sulfur, System Monitor, and Yaquake, which is a drop-down terminal. Now, I've seen this on Pardus as well, and it says you've got a first run here, and basically this is just a shell that will constantly sit on your desktop. You can roll up and down as you need it, so great for those who live in the terminal. Again, I suspect they're really heading towards Linux enthusiasts here that like Gentoo but prefer a package management system to fall back on if they so need to. So I think they're appealing to the same audience as Arch, but at the same time they're wanting to provide a fully out-of-the-box install, so they're not having to waste their time getting installing. They could just jump right into using Gentoo and enjoying the benefits of the solid adaptability that is Gentoo. And of course the menu I have selected as the old classic style KDE menu, but by default you do get the kickoff menu. So overall impressions of this distribution. I would have preferred to be able to have some time with this distribution on native hardware. It was a bit of a disappointment that some of the drivers weren't working as well as they should have been. HDMI was having a few issues. As I said, Pulse audio I couldn't get working properly as far as the microphone, and also there was very dim audio and I couldn't get it up very loud at all. Having said that though, if the hardware was to work out of the box, they bundle in some very nice applications with it. It is a hefty download, and they also provide you with the lovely media center, which is great to see. It's a great application. Interesting choice of programs. The Sulfur Package Manager is definitely geared towards advanced users who know what they're doing. Overall, I think Sabayon is definitely an enthusiast distro for those who need the adaptability and reliability of Gentoo. I wouldn't recommend it for new users, as you need to have some basic understanding of how Linux functions. But aside from the hardware issues and a few stability issues with the package manager, I find Sabayon to be a very serious, solid release, and they go to great lengths to humanize their error messages and things like that. So instead of saying error found in blah 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 blah, it'll say something like, oops, oh, we just messed up your something or other. So they try and humanize the messages a bit more and try to make it a bit more friendly. And again, I think that's definitely geared towards the nerds. But it's good to see that they've customized Gentoo and brought it together in a single coherent package that people can download, install as an operating system, and never have to update or anything ever again. Because quite honestly, it has most things you'll need out of the box. The only thing it doesn't have is a solid photo manager and also a video editor, and so I would recommend probably Pardus over Sabayon. Having said that, solid KDE release. It's running KDE 4.5.1 out of the box. It's got most things you're going to need, and I'd be happy to recommend to those who want an advanced distribution that is powerful, and it's just the modular nature of Gentoo Linux, all packaged into a very nice, polished and coherent experience that Sabayon Linux provides.